Hello and welcome to game 2 of the match against the Pixie. We have an Ambassador Kingdom on the board. Looking at it here, I noticed that the draw was weak in Enchantress and Gear, and also Villa is the village. So Villa would take a card out your hand, Gear would take another card out your hand. You draw 2, but you don't actually increase your hand size. And for that reason, I thought, well, maybe you can't play as many bridges as you would like here. The draw is weak, the village isn't that great. So you can play some number of bridges. I just don't think it'll be 6 or 7 of them. Was my thoughts looking at what I wanted to build towards. Looking at the opening, I think double ambassador is good. If they collide, it's a bit unfortunate, but you have way of the mule. You get at least some money out of it. Plus your next hand is either $3 or $4, and they are good 3 costs and 4 costs to pick up on the board. If they don't collide, great. You get 4 cards out your deck. You might be able to buy a guardian to block an incoming ambassador. So I think double ambassador is a reasonable or good, probably even the best opening on the board here. My opponent also follows on the double ambassador, and I see my ambassador on turn 3 with a great hand. Well, not perfect hand. He would have been double copper, double estate, so I would have been able to buy a guardian, block this ambassador, but we take what we can get. We'll get our guardian now, and still the ambassadors do not collide for me, so they also don't collide for my opponent. They are right up there with me in terms of thinning out the deck. Finally, they do collide, but they will collide eventually. So here, let's stop for a moment. I have the option to buy a villa and return 1 copper. Something I can do, but I decided to just continue getting thin. And on 3 here, I could buy another guardian, or I could buy a silver. I didn't want to get any of those. I wanted to get some draw, and I think here is where I chose an enchantress. Yeah, I think here's where I chose an enchantress. Smugglers is probably too early at this point. We're not buying anything great right now. We're both chucking coppers at each other, so maybe later. But I get the enchantress, and we'll pause here. That turn 6 for me there on the enchantress buy is critical. I think my opponent, the Pixie, demonstrates to me that Gear is a better card than Enchantress in this case. Now, I bought the Enchantress not for the attack purposes. I bought it for draw. Okay, it doesn't draw this turn, but it'll draw 2 cards next turn. It'll give me an increased hand size on that turn, which is something I noticed that the Gear would not be able to do. And then I'll have more options on that turn. So I put down my Enchantress here. I'll have 7 cards at the start of my next turn. Think about a second Guardian. I don't know if that's right or not. I already have 2. The third one isn't particularly good, but I do it for the money here, which still mightn't be good. So Gear, the difference now with Gear to the Enchantress is that you can set aside cards here. And in its own way, Gear does also increase the hand size of your starting hand. Right, but it is more flexible than the Enchantress. So I think Enchantress over Gear was a clear mistake. Here, I am able to see my whole deck, and at this point, I feel like I am ahead. Here now, we'll take another moment to pause. Turn 7 for the Pixie is a bridge, right? So they have double Ambassador, Gear, and Bridge in their deck. No villages as yet, but Villa you can buy easily to fix that problem. Now, I see my whole deck here. I feel like I'm ahead, even though I'm not ahead. It's just parity because my opponent has kept up with the ambassador chucking, and they actually have a better draw card. I didn't see it at the time, obviously, but now in retrospect, I'm able to see in the Gear. So on 5 here, I had a thought. Couple turns now, it wasn't possible for me to both buy a villa and return copper with the ambassador because I would use the copper to buy the villa, and I need the actions. It's 3 terminals in my deck now. So what I decided to do here was to get some money so that I can use that money to buy villa. Then I can play my ambassadors to return the coppers. That was the idea here, right? So for my money, I chose a relic. You could choose a bridge too for that purpose. Bridged is 1 money. So here, look, my opponent demonstrates very clearly. Bridge is $1, plus it brings down the price of the villa. So it's kind of like a silver. And they are able to do the thing that I wanted to do. They bought a villa, played the ambassador, and returned an estate to the pile. Right? I don't have the bridge yet. And now that the cost of things have come down, they are able to buy perhaps another bridge here, perhaps another gear, another villa, anything like this. Right? So I still feel fine about my position. Again, the relic there is not for the attack. The relic there is for the silver purpose. It looks like I'm buying these things and my opponent has guardians up all the time, but I'm aware of that. I'm not buying it for the attack purpose. Here, ambassadors collide with nothing to return. I do return 1 guardian here. I feel like 2 now should be sufficient, and I get my first bridge, right? So we're starting in on the bridges. Villa here for my opponent, and into double gear, right? And they put down their bridge as well. So let's see what they pick up. But they have these 2 gears, right? So they have a little bit more draw than me. And now they buy another bridge. So I thought that was too greedy. They have so many terminals and not enough actions. I understand villa is there, but you may not have money to buy the villa, was my thought. You may not have money to buy the villa. Anyways, so here I opt not to return anything with the ambassador so that I can get an enchantress up, try to get my draw flowing as well. I first wanted a couple enchantresses in play. Then I would start to look to get the gears. That was my idea, right? That was my idea. As I explained here, gear I think is just better than enchantress. The attack is to be taken out of the consideration because everyone has guardians up all the time. So just in terms of draw card, what is a better draw card? The gear is more flexible, and for that reason I think it's better now. I say now a lot, right? You already know what's going to happen later. So another bridge for my opponent. That is 3 bridges. And I thought surely this had to be greedy. Surely. Right? There's no way that was good. Anyways, here I'm finally able to do the thing. I put down my bridge, buy a villa, and return a copper. Maybe I could have considered returning a guardian here, but I wanted to put at least 1 in play to defend. Unable to buy anything still, but that's okay. This is how the ambassador games go sometimes. Now, watch this turn for my opponent. So bridge first, right? Buys villa. They have 1 money from the bridge, 1 money from the guardian, 1 money from the copper. Out comes the gear, which is draw immediately. You can choose what to do with the 2 cards, store it for next turn, or use it on this turn. So you do have to think a bit with the gear. Well, more than the enchantress anyway, when it comes to the draw consideration, the draw part of it. So they're thinking a lot here, and you'll see what they come up with. Let me skip ahead in time. This is not skipping ahead. Okay, so this is, let's start back from here. Right, so villa, gear, up to here we saw, and now another villa, ambassador, double bridge. They managed to get 3 bridges in play, and this was a killer turn. What I thought was greedy was not, apparently. They were able to put down this kind of turn. I noticed at the start of the turn here, there's a gear in play. So they probably set this whole thing up 2 turns back at least. And now they get to enjoy. They get to enjoy triple bridge, 5 buys and 5 money. And look at the board. You get your pick of what you want between villas, bridges, and not enchantresses. And villas, bridges, and gears. You get your pick. They don't have a guardian in play, but that is easily rectified when it costs nothing except for a buy. And this is actually the turn where the game is lost, because my opponent does something very clever, and something you should keep in mind when there's villa on the board. You can deplete the villa pile and make it so that your opponent doesn't have actions, first of all, but more importantly, doesn't have actions on demand. Look at my hand. Ambassador, Enchantress, Bridge. I was planning to buy a villa, but where are the villas now? All your villa belong to the Pixie. So now, I mean, that's it, right? That's the whole game there. So I am forced to change my strategy. I was looking to put 2 or 3 bridges in play with some enchantresses and gears around, but the villas aren't there anymore. So what can I do? I switched to gold. The treasure is still there, and I'm gonna try to buy a province, get a points lead, and then empty the piles before my opponent can see the benefit of all of those villas and bridges. Because the downside of making that play is that last turn they did almost nothing, right? They just played a few villas, put some guardians in play or something. The villas don't draw, so the deck is without draw for now. But you see they are fixing that. Last turn they bought a gear. I go for a warehouse here to circle back to my treasures as often as possible. And I think that would be the last piece that I need to contest the points and try to pile out. So more gears for my opponent. Maybe that should have been a gear. Maybe I should have said, okay, you get the villages, I'll get the draw. And, we were both equally unhappy. Not really. There are enchantresses on the board to fix that problem. But maybe I should have contested the gear there. Anyway, so here, I get what I wanted, right? I bought my treasures. I have enough to buy a province. I do buy one more bridge because I can at least play 2 bridges. If I'm lucky, I see my villa with 2 bridges in play. I empty the guardians a little bit. Guardians and gears are very, very low, but it is a little too late because my opponent is able to string together a huge turn with all those gears they bought. Everything came up in the right order for them. They set aside some cards with the gear there, but they're able to stick enough bridges in play to pile out and win the game. So a lesson in bridge and villa here for me. Game 2 now also goes to Pixie. Thank you for watching.